This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles podcast, where we will give respect and voice to people with special needs. I'm your host, Daniel Smrokowski. Today, we're coming to you live from the 2025 Speak Up, Speak Out Summit here in Normal, Illinois. Joining us right now on our podcast booth is keynote speaker Zach. Welcome, Zach.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Let me unmute your mic.
Thanks for having me.
But and usually I'll play applause, but I guess because we kind of have a live audience, we can. There you go. That works.
My wife Carly is off camera and applauding. That's all we need.
That's all we need. Yes. Sometimes even just an applause of one is sometimes all we need.
Yeah, that's all I need.
So first, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. I'm Zach Anner. I'm an author and a comedian and a YouTuber and a writer and blah, 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 blah. But today I'm here because I'm the keynote speaker at the Speak Up, Speak Out Summit here in I want to say Normal, Illinois.
Yes.
What an interesting name for a town.
Yes. So,
that makes me think it's secretly weird.
It is. It is. I mean, I live just in the suburbs of Chicago, so just north of here. So.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so where do we stand on pizza?
So I was born in Southern California, in Long Beach, so I'm more Thin Crust, even though I've grown up here.
Okay, so that's acceptable.
Yeah.
We live in Burbank now, so not too far from you.
Yeah. Well, I was born there. Yeah,
you're a Chicago boy now.
Chicago boy now. Yes. So before we get into, because when I was standing in the back of the room, even though my dad said, "Oh, you could have sat down," but I was standing in the back when you're speaking, and I think I ended up having like 5 pages of notes.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it was just to kind of guide. But before we get into that, because the Speak Up, Speak Out Summit is all about self-advocacy. What does self-advocacy mean to you?
Self-advocacy means being able to live the life you want and being able to articulate your needs in whatever way makes sense to you, and just being able to live a joyful and meaningful life.
Awesome.
And hopefully, if you get that taken care of, you can sort of pay it forward and pass it along to other people in your community. And
yeah, awesome. I love that. And well,
I can say it again.
Yeah. Do you want to say it again? Because our listeners would love to hear that.
Self-advocacy, I think, means doing whatever it takes to lead a joyful and meaningful life and getting what you need so that you can be who you want to be. And then hopefully once you get those things taken care of, you can pass along what you've learned and fight for other people in your community. And hopefully, no one has ever asked me that question before, so hopefully that doesn't sound like nonsense.
No, it does. I think it makes a lot of sense, and that ties into a little bit of your speech, Leo, that we'll get to in just a few moments. But what are you most excited about being here at the Speak Out Summit and being the keynote speaker?
Honestly, I speak at a lot of different conferences, but I've never seen such a bombastic, excited crowd of self-advocates. And it's wonderful to see so many people who are engaging in their own issues and fighting for what they need. It's very inspiring to me. I think it's just so cool to see so many people with disabilities who are ready for the fight and ready to to advocate for what they need.
Awesome. Yeah.
And plus this podcast also, because I feel like this has been years in the making.
Yes. Yeah. I've been podcasting for 17 years, and I'll jump ahead of my notes, but then we'll come back. When the show Speechless was on ABC, I have a friend who has CP who lives, I believe, in the Boston area. I was just texting with her now, but we did a commentary during the first season of Speechless, and then we just picked a few episodes, but like from our disability perspective. Did
it hold up, or did you?
So the first season we did commentary on every episode, but then we noticed the next couple of seasons, a lot of the same topics and stories were similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we struggled with too, is like, okay, there's about 5 big differences that you can explore. And then really the issues that you get into are just human issues that everyone wants the same thing. So it became less about those like big issues, like let's educate the world on the differences of life with a disability. And it was more about showing JJ's humanity and wants and desires. So I get if you got bored as soon as I joined the show, I will not. My feelings are not hurt.
No, we still watched the other seasons, but it's after the first season or two.
So but that's kind of what we were excited about, was that something that starts out as groundbreaking can just become like a fun TV show.
A fun TV, yeah. That's and I think that's probably like, and because I wrote a newspaper column about it, and that's what I think a lot of times, that at least in all disability community, it seems it starts out groundbreaking, like even like with this podcast, it starts out groundbreaking, but then eventually you want it to kind of flow into the mainstream.
Yeah, I think that was Scott Silveri's intention. Was his thing in the writer's room was, we never want people to feel like they're eating their vegetables by watching our show. We want them to be having a good time and just be telling a good story about a family. And so either it was, I could see that was a big frustration with the marketing of the show, because they would always try and make it seem like this is such a special, groundbreaking show, and you have to watch it because it's meaningful. And we were just trying to make a comedy.
Yeah.
And so people would sometimes not be interested because they were like, is this actually going to be funny, or am I going to feel strange about watching it?
Yeah. So
it's riding that line is always tricky.
Yeah. Well, awesome. And I'm just gonna, since we're talking about that, when in your speech earlier, you played a couple clips from the show, in particular when JJ and his dad, who I had John Ross Bali on this podcast.
Oh, awesome!
When season 3 started, and the clips that you played about having the father and son talk, just in the room behind us. So right behind where our podcast booth, it says the self-advocates and sexuality, we have rights. And so it seems like the breakout right behind us is a similar topic to the scenes that you just showed.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because for me, before you get into the dating world and have your first relationship and realize how meaningful it is. The focus is on when am I going to have sex, those types of things. But I think one of the reasons that we wanted to focus on JJ asking about can I have a family is those are the things, the milestones that when you're a kid with a disability, you don't know if they're going to be an option for you or not.
Yeah.
Do we want to give? There's a lot of people walking by. Should we pause for a sec?
It's fine. It's
okay.
It's live.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it adds to the environment.
Yeah. Well, I think like that was one of our main goals was to just show that JJ is a teenager thinking about the things that all teenagers are thinking about. You know, what's my future going to look like? And I'm sorry to be missing the talk on disability and sexuality because
I know.
You know, we've all got a lot to learn.
Yes. So maybe we'll have to pull up somebody from that breakout to stop by our podcast booth.
Please hit the bullet points for us.
Yes. Give us the highlights. What are you most excited about being here at the Speak Out Summit?
I was honestly, we were only here for a day, but I think I said at the beginning, but I'm just so energized and excited to see so many people with disabilities who are doing the work. They're not, they're so engaged in what all of these important issues, and just to see the vendors and the artists making stuff. Z over there with her jewelry.
Yeah.
Just awesome. Just like disabled business owners and artists and craftsmen and people just making awesome, badass lives for themselves is just really inspiring. And I know that word inspiring, particularly in our community, people say it all the time, and they'll say it no matter what we do, but just like seeing people who are actually like doing awesome shit is really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming back to your keynote, what's a message that you hope to have shared?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's seeing feedback from the team. But what's the message that you hope to have shared in your keynote? Joyful grit.
Well, I think joyful grit for me is just what we all need to get through uncertain times like this. There's so many things going on, particularly in the government and things that are happening where we don't know if certain programs are going to be available. We don't know if funding is going to be available. But my message is we need to be able to put in the work and still find a way to have fun while we're doing it, because this is the life that we've been given. And I think it's important that we realize that being together as humans is an important, special, and unique thing. So I think there's a lot of pessimism out there. So I just wanted to put a little joy into the conversation.
Yeah, awesome. I love that, and a couple of quotes that I wanted you to comment on for our listeners. One is that you talked about that.
I'm okay.
That disabled life can be a great life.
Yeah.
Can you comment on that part of your keynote?
I think there's this misconception, particularly from able-bodied people. When it's interesting when people when people see me on the street and they don't know what my career has been and some of the things that I've been able to do, hosting travel shows, writing books, doing stuff like that, I can just feel there's this sense of pity. So, and I really feel like there's this expectation that I'm living my best life, but I'm doing it inside of an able-bodied person's worst case scenario, which is not the truth. My life has always been great. Yeah. I've never felt like my disability has kept my life from being awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, looks like we have a chant going on.
We normally do this podcast in a soundproof booth.
Yes. Usually, it's not the typical environment where we usually podcast from.
I'm happy to take that again if you want.
Yeah. I think people might be doing it too much. Look, yeah. It'll calm down. Let me. Okay. All right. We'll back here.
Okay.
All right. So yeah. Do you want to?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just saying that I think that there's a misconception.
Finish up this. Do you want to repeat
sure.
that last little bit?
Yeah, I just think.
Whoa, back.
We are back.
We're back.
All right, so the question was about a disabled life being a great life.
Yes. And yeah, let me put the microphone back together. There we go.
And the reason that I want to say that is there are so many people in the able-bodied community who assume that a disability is the worst thing that can befall you, and that I'm living my best life inside of what would be their worst case scenario. But the truth is, I've always thought that a life with a disability could be awesome, and I think it's because my parents instilled that idea in me, and they were always looking for what my potential was and how I could fulfill that. And I think that's just a misconception that we need to dispel, that a disability means that your life has to be unpleasant or not worthy. A disability means that you have challenges, but those challenges can be part of what makes your life meaningful.
Awesome. I love that, and that's one of the reasons why I jotted down that line. Moving quickly on, you talked about the Rainbow Bagel video, which I believe somebody shared that video with me when it first came online. But can you just briefly share with our listeners what the Rainbow Bagel video is? Because I loved how you said that the outcome that there was a lot of outrage, but there wasn't a lot of change, and that what you learned from this Rainbow Bagel video is a lesson for all the rest of us to do the right thing, and that that doing the good thing is the outcome. So can you just give us an overview of what this Rainbow Bagel video is? And
so the quest for the Rainbow Bagel was the video I made with the Cerebral Palsy Foundation about going to get a bagel in New York City, and it was. Hold on, maybe we should.
We're back with the.
So the Rainbow Bagel video was a video I made in collaboration with the Cerebral Palsy Foundation about going to get a bagel as a disabled man in New York City. And it really highlighted just how many public transportation options are not up to code in New York City. There were just so many subways that weren't accessible, and so many like curbs that weren't no curb cuts, no ramps. And then we wound up having to take a ferry to Brooklyn because this bagel shop where this mythical Rainbow Bagel was all the way in Brooklyn. And then we got to the bagel shop, and the bagel shop wasn't even accessible. And it was a really fun video, but when we got to the bagel shop and it wasn't accessible, the film crew was just completely deflated because they thought that we were going to have to call the CEO of the Cerebral Palsy Foundation and tell him that we didn't have a video because they wanted a triumphant ending. And I had to give them a pep talk because I knew that the triumphant ending was actually what we would get in response to putting that video up, because it proved our entire point that things should be more accessible, and this is supposed to be one of the most developed cities in the world, and it's even harder to get around New York City. So when we put that video out, it wound up getting 40 million views or something, but it didn't actually lead to a lot of tangible change. New York City is still very inaccessible, and elevators and public transportation break down all the time. But then a few years ago, someone from Kyrgyzstan sent me a link to a video they helped make about a girl in Kyrgyzstan struggling to get around her country. And that video wound up like leading to the laws changing around accessibility in Kyrgyzstan. So the point is, you should just do the good thing no matter what, because you never know what change it'll make down the line.
Absolutely. I love that, and I'm sure our listeners can take away from that. Jumping back, we mentioned at the beginning about how in season 2 of the show Speechless that aired on ABC that you became a TV writer, and that when you met the creator of the show, you sent him a let's see if I wrote this down right, a
20-page document.
Yes.
He was like, do you have, a few stories that you might be able to share? Just a couple that we might be able to glean some stories from. And I just sent him this huge novella of stories from my life. And I think they actually wound up using about 5 of them in the first season, just from the document that I had sent. So that's how I got my first TV writing job.
Awesome. And can you sum up what the experience was on that show? You talked about in your keynote about how the show, it's not just to be seen, but to be celebrated by so many people. I know myself with an intellectual disability, and my friend who has CP who lives on the East Coast. We both did a commentary on the show Speechless and talked kind of about it from our disability, talked about the stories and the themes from a disability perspective. And those podcasts are still available on specialchronicles.com. If any of our listeners want to go back, and so I was excited to hear about when you hosted a podcast of of that show? Is
yeah. I hosted the Speechless podcast. That was something that Scott Silveri asked me to do, to interview the cast and crew in season 3, because I think I actually was like, this show should have an official podcast, because at the time, and we wound up being canceled, so I guess it didn't help. But I was like, anything to get the word out about how awesome this show is, I'll do.
Yeah.
So that was my one of my roles on Speechless, was to be the ambassador for people who weren't watching it but should be.
Awesome.
So,
yeah. Well, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners to this podcast, I'm sure were able to tune in by myself and my friend giving our commentary to the show. And so,
thank you for that.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, we wanted to get to at least give, even though it wasn't the official podcast like what you hosted, but at least to give commentary from our disability community.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just a couple of final notes before we let you go grab lunch. At the end, you a powerful way, because the way that your keynote was titled "Joyful Grit from Setbacks."
Turning setbacks into setups.
Awesome.
I'll work on that subtitle. I'll make it something more memorable.
Yeah. I remember the title. And so I gave a keynote. I was in Jefferson City, Missouri a few years ago, and I gave a keynote where I talked about from challenges to opportunity. So kind of the same type of. I didn't have as many, clips like you did, but it's kind of that similar type of.
It does. I don't know if you've found this, but I found that my disability has opened as many doors as it's closed. So I find that if you have a sense of who you are, that disability becomes part of your message, part of your purpose.
I found that as well. It's not. I found that in addition to that it's not that my disability. It's not the main point of the story, but it's a part of the overall message.
Yeah, it's something. It's another tool in your toolbox.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I love that, and I've used that kind of toolbox type of analogy in the past. So at the end, you talked about how this is the time that we have to connect, to be human together, and how happiness fades but joy echoes. I thought that was a perfect way that you wrapped up your speech. Can you repeat that for our listeners and kind of share just a little bit about what you meant by that?
I mean, I think happiness is something that's based on temporary circumstances, but joy is something that comes from within us, and it's something that can really help us through struggle and carry us through grief. And I think joy is something that we all need in times like these, when there are so many uncertain things going on in the world, and it might be easier to be all doom and gloom. But I think we all get one life, and we all get this time on the planet together, and in order to experience all of the wonderful things that this life has to offer, and all of the beautiful things and the tough things, we need to have joy. And I think having a disability gives us a unique window into joy that not everyone has, because we know at the start that things are not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're not going to be meaningful. They're not going to be joyful. They're not going to be exciting. So I think that's just kind of the message that I wanted to get across, because I believe that humanity is a team sport and we're all in this together.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And especially in everything going on in the world today, including all of us with disabilities. I think that's a powerful message that a lot of the listeners to this podcast is in our disability community, but also a lot of people in the mainstream, like I guess in the outside of our disability community, will learn a lot from that as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
A couple of final wrap-up.
Sure.
A couple final wrap-up questions. Why is the Speak Out Summit an important event, and why did you agree to be a keynote speaker here?
It's important to me because having these events where we can all come together and focus and have a good time, but not only that, but also learn about the work that we need to put in and the things that we need to do to live fulfilled and meaningful lives. That's so important to me. And the Speak Out Summit just aligned so perfectly with the way that I try to live my life. And I like that everybody is very excited about getting loud about what's important to them.
Yes.
And I think particularly right now, there's this instinct of, we just need to be quiet, not make noise. And it's nice to be around people who are ready to make noise when it matters.
Absolutely. And how do you see self-advocates leading the way in creating change? And then what advice do you have for people with disabilities who want to get more involved in advocacy? It might not be having a TV show or being a writer, but how do you see self-advocates leading the way in creating change? And then what advice do you have for people with disabilities who might want to get involved in advocacy?
I think it starts with really defining what's important to you. What are the issues that really matter to you and your community? It's so easy to get overwhelmed and do nothing, but it's important to remember that doing something is always better than doing nothing. It's and so little things like calling your legislator or telling your own personal story online. I think there's a lack of empathy and humanity, particularly in this day and age. And I think just telling human stories and helping people realize that we all want the same things and we're not against each other.
Yeah.
Is the most important thing.
Awesome. If you could describe the Speak Out Summit in one word, what would it be?
I would say it is one word. Okay.
Yeah,
one word, energizing.
Energizing. Yeah, perfect way. And I think our listeners are probably not going to know that we actually have to pause this recording a few times because of how energizing.
It's so loud, but in the best possible way.
It is. Finally, to wrap up, what's a message for those listening to this podcast who couldn't be here today, who couldn't have heard you spoke? What's a message for those that you would like to share with them?
I'll say, I wish you were here, but stay joyful and stay gritty.
Awesome. And where can our listeners, if you're watching the video podcast, you see, we've got your book up on the table here, but where can also buy your book and follow you online?
You can buy my book anywhere, but you can also get it at your local library for free. That's what I would do.
Awesome. And where can all listeners follow you? Website, social media?
ZachAnner.com. And then also I host a weekly trivia podcast, or I'm one of the hosts. It's called Answer For It. We're just completely irreverent. You can check me out on YouTube. It's just my name, Zach Anner, Zach with an H.
Awesome.
So
awesome. I'll have to check that out as well. Thanks. That's a wrap on this episode of our live coverage from the 2025 Speak Up, Speak Out Summit in Normal, Illinois, presented by the Alc of Illinois. A big thank you to our self-advocates, families, speakers, and community members who have joined us on today's episode and shared their powerful voices. And thank you again, Zach, for coming on the Special Chronicles podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Yeah. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow the Special Chronicles podcast on your favorite podcast app. Leave us a review, like, subscribe, do all those things.
Do all the stuff.
Yes. Do all the stuff at specialchronicles.com to where you can follow us. Thanks. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Giving respect and a voice.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Special needs.
Yeah. Let me.
Okay, what do you want to say, and then you can sign. I usually inscribe.
Yeah.
To my favorite podcast host. Sorry, this has taken years.
But it was well worth it.
It was.
This was an awesome interview.
Yeah, it was.
It really wasn't like an interview. You guys were just having a conversation.
Yeah, well, and that's what I try to share with a lot of the guests, which I'm sure like the podcast that you have hosted. It's just a conversation.
Just keeping it conversational. For this years, but your dad says it was worth it, and I agree. Right,
Up here or on your lap?
Awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you.
I'll get the